was Gurdjieff who said that most people are dead by the time they're 30. Of course, he didn't mean physically dead. What he meant was there was no further growth possible for them. What kind of growth? Well, maybe new ideas, new ways of living, change. Because as the ancients said, stasis is death. In other words, when there's no change, then you effectively have death. And so people are living longer and longer and longer, but actually they're already dead by the time they're 30. So what lives on is effectively just a shell. Now, it was Gurdjieff who said man is a machine. Well, what does a machine do? It does the same thing every time you operate it. So people, once they reach a certain age, their lives kind of stabilize. They become predictable. So maybe their daily routine is they get up in the morning, they have a cup of coffee, they read the newspaper, they go to work, they come back from work, maybe they take a shower, watch TV, go to bed, copulate, get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and endlessly around on the same thing. Nothing changes. Now, some people interpret change as being, I need to go whitewater rafting in Peru. Well, yeah, it is to some extent, but actually that's not really what Gurdjieff or anybody is talking about. Change is when you acquire knowledge or change your behavior in a way that is maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but all the same breaks the machine out of its daily habit, its daily routine. So I've titled this Life and Death Spirals and Circles because death is essentially circular activity. A circle, if you trace a circle, once you've gone round it, then you come back to the same point, and you go round again, and you come back to the same point, and forever and ever do the same thing. This is what death is, going round the same path, day in, day out, or year in, year out, and never actually getting anywhere. This is how most people live their lives. And the irony is that to a large extent this is how the will to life works, the will to life being the blind force that pushes everything along to exist and maintain its life. So if you look at ants haven't changed for millions of years. They do the same thing over and over again through generations. There's probably no evolution possible for ants. They are, in a sense, dead. They're dead creatures. Obviously, they're alive in the sense that their bodies are animated and they go and do stuff. But in terms of ants as a species, the species is dead. There seems to be no evolution. Well, maybe there will be in the future, but as things have been for a long, long time, one generation of ants will do exactly the same as the next generation of ants. And so it is with people's lives, and so it is with many aspects of life. So human beings even. A generation comes along, it grows up, it is driven by the sexual impulse, it breeds, produces another generation that will then go along and do exactly the same thing. This effectively is a kind of death. And it's the reason why that isn't particularly attractive to some people. So this is circles going round and round and round in the same old path day after day. And in fact, the ancients had a symbol for this. This was the serpent eating its own tail. Basically, it's a self-devouring mechanism. And so in many countries, in the West particularly, we see an emphasis on longevity, for example, but what's actually living? It's just a zombie. It's already dead by the time it's 30. Nothing is going to change. And that's the sad situation for many people in their lives. And of course they suffer because of this. They become bored, lethargic, disillusioned, angry. And in essence they only have themselves to blame because they are not making any effort to break out of what is effectively a closed circle of boredom and mechanical behavior. So let's come to spirals, in other words, life. As you know, a spiral, whichever dimension you want to look at it in, if you look at a two-dimensional one, it moves outwards. It doesn't repeat on itself. So you start at the middle, and as you go round, you move outwards and further outwards. Or if it's three-dimensional spiral, like a coil, then you go upwards. The only way this happens in life is through intentional effort, conscious effort. So some people, not many, are not happy to live the same routine every day. And by routine I'm not really talking about the physical routine. Some of the greatest minds that have ever lived, Schopenhauer and Kant, had a daily routine. They used to go for a walk every day. In fact, the local villagers would set their clocks by Kant, literally, because he would go for a walk the same time every day. So obviously it's not physical things per se, but it's ideas. So if your ideas today are exactly the same as they were 10 years ago, then you're effectively dead. But if you are challenging your ideas on a day-by-day basis and acquiring new perspectives, then you're alive, you're growing. It's the very definition of the thing. So to grow, you need food. And that food is the food of ideas. And those ideas may be from anything, Hinduism, Christianity, philosophy, even science. But as long as there's some change taking place and some growth, then there's life. In fact, the whole idea of investing in the body, thinking that by, some kind of regime, you are somehow causing your body to grow, is nonsense. Your body is just a rotting pile of flesh, and at some point in the next, I don't know how old you are, but at some point in the next 70 or 80 years probably, you will be no more, your body will be no more, and neither will your mind, but I'll get onto that in a moment. In 200 years, nobody will remember you, or me. It will be as though you hadn't existed. Anyway, let's get back to this thing of where we need to invest. Obviously, the body needs to be kept in a reasonable state. So, even I, who really don't have any interest in things like sport and all the rest of it, I try to eat a reasonable diet, because I don't want to suffer. As people like Epicurus and Schopenhauer said, pain is the real thing in life. Once you have absence of pain, then you have pleasure. That's if you're caught in the pleasure-pain cycle, which most of us are. But when it comes to the mind, well, the mind will deteriorate at the point of death as well. But the point is, as Schopenhauer said, most people are engaged in a circular activity that is called maintenance of their existence. So they go to work, they earn money, so that next week they can go to work and earn money, so that next week they can go to work and earn money, yada yada yada. There's no growth in that. But in terms of satisfaction and joy and happiness, the mind delights in its own activity, to quote Spinoza. So if you want some kind of happiness or joy in your life, then you need to be feeding your mind, because actually that's where a certain level of joy and happiness can come from. Because if you've addressed the needs of life, so say you inherit a large amount of money and you don't have to work, what will happen? You'll become bored. You're no longer challenged by the pressures of life to maintain your existence, and so you become bored. And boredom is just another kind of pain. So such a person would do well to start feeding their mind, because a mind that is fed is a mind that isn't bored, and hence it doesn't suffer. Both body and mind go at the point of death, but the point is, what kind of life do you want to live? Having decided that you're not going to commit suicide, I would imagine that you want to live the happiest life that you can. And happiness, and more appropriately joy, comes from effort, and that effort of feeding your mind and causing it to grow and to be alive right up to the point of death. And that way, actually, death will not seem all that important, oddly enough.